Right, JJ. So covered a fair bit of ground there for first lesson. So we went through chords, strumming, and the bit of melody as well. So I'll go through this stuff fairly quick, and then you can just kind of rewind and take it in your own time. So first thing we did was just establish what the basic chords are. So for the majors, that's A major. Now a lot of people do it like this. I recommend you get your first finger G string about halfway up the fret. Middle finger goes over, third finger goes under it. And with most of the basic chords, with the exceptions being E major, E minor, and G, you don't include the sixth string. So just kind of get the thumb on it, barely touch it, and just take it out of there. Next one is C, you know that one already. So with this one, you can either get your thumb on it, or you can just hold down the A string like that in such a way that your third finger is touching the sixth. D, same deal there. Then bring the first finger back for an E major. E major is kind of like A minor, just up a string. And then G. Although you've got it this way, which is perfectly good too. Kind of gives you a bit of room to do stuff back here. So minors then, we've got A minor, D minor, which was a new one. So it's D major, only this one here is the third of the chord. The third is the one, we'll talk about that in a second, that decides major or minor. If this note is high, it's major. If it's low, it's minor. So obviously you can't just tuck your middle finger back like that. You have to rearrange it a little bit. There's D minor, and then E minor. So you've got those down pretty much. And so there's two different directions you can go then for more chords to kind of complete the repertoire. So as we said, there's 12 notes overall. So there's a different type. There's a chord for each one of those notes, right? You've got A sharp, B goes straight to C sharp, D sharp, E goes straight to F sharp, G sharp, and then by the time you get up here, you're back to A again, cycles around again. So all you need to know, it goes from A to G. They all have sharps, one fret or one semitone above, except for B and E. B goes straight to C, E goes straight to F. So the way you get the rest of, so that means with the majors, we've got 5 out of 12, and minors, we've got only 3 out of 12. So the way you get the rest of them is, let's say B minor is a common one, right, that we don't have an open shape for, right? So what you would do, one of the ways you can do it is take your A minor, switch it around so that your index finger is free. So middle finger goes to where the index finger was, and so on. So it should sound exactly the same. Then you take it up. Now the problem is you can't just do that because we've left behind these open strings. They need to be brought. They're just notes like any other, so they need to be brought up too. So bring in the bar, right? So with the bar, now these take time, so don't worry too much about these just yet, but we did cover it, so I'll throw it in. Bring your finger to the side, roll it back just a little bit. It's because your finger is harder on its side than it is just kind of flat down like that. Now, you know the way with A minor, that's one of the ones we don't use the sixth string for, so that same is true when you bring it up. So we only want to cover the 5, but then just allow your third finger, your barring finger, to touch the sixth. Now there's three main little kind of P's and Q's when it comes to playing chords, right? Number one is, wherever possible, get your finger, and this is true not just for chords, this is true for pretty much everything. Always bring your finger as close to the fret as you possibly can. You should just start to feel the fret with your finger. Obviously you don't want to be on the fret, but just right up to it. You can't always do that, but wherever you can, as close to the fret as you can get it. Next thing is to make sure that your fingers are kind of curved up and over like that, not kind of slanted or nothing like this or anything like that. Curved up and over, so that this last part of your finger here, this little last inch or so, beyond the last joint, is more or less perpendicular. You don't need to be too picky about it now. I mean, if the chord sounds good, it sounds good, and you're doing everything right. But ideally, that's what it should look like, because that's the best way to avoid touching the strings on either side of it. Okay, so that's the basic idea of bar chords. We'll get into it in more depth later. So the other thing then is, things like major 7, sus4, add 9, and so on, right? So we were saying last time that those numbers, what they're referring to is the note in the scale. So like if you say C add 9, for example, if you're playing your G like this with the first 2 strings covered, and then you just bring these top 2 down, that's C add 9, right? Or the busker C, as a lot of people call it. So because this note is new, that's not normally in C. So, and it's the 9th, 1, 2, in the C major scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. D sus4 is a common one. Now you can sus4 any chord, but D is just particularly common with the little finger. So this here is a D note. So we can call that 1, right? Note of 1 in the chord of D. Now if we go up the scale, 1, 2, 3, for a major, the high 3, we could also go 1, 2, 3 for a minor, that lower third like I was talking about last time. So if it's low, it's minor. If it's high, it's major. But if we go beyond the 3s altogether up to the 4, now we're suspending whether or not the chord is major or minor with the note of 4. So that's why it's D sus4. You could just as easily major third, minor third, high third, low third, same thing, down to the 2nd. Now, again, it's neither major nor minor. So it's D sus2. We've suspended the chord with a 2. So that's just, as I said, we'll get into more on that stuff later, but that's the basic idea. Now, for strumming, as I said, there's nothing more important than having a solid rhythm, right? Having a nice steady rhythm that just takes over on and on and on. And the way to do that is to keep your hand movement completely regular. Down, up, down, up, down, up, with no change in the movement whatsoever. Now, you define the rhythm by skipping a few. Just so we did that calypso pattern, so you had no trouble with it anyway. So it's down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up. But the hand movement is just that, right? It's just down, up, down, up, down, up with no change. And we're just defining the rhythm by skipping a few. Now keep in mind as well that it's not just either hit it or don't. You can kind of just hit a few of the bass strings if you want, just to kind of give it a bit of an ebb and flow, right? Some can be louder than others. Some you can hit the bass and then just flick the first few strings, just kind of get a little bit of a ping kind of sound. There's all sorts of variations you can add into it, but that's absolutely number one. Just keep it moving. Just keep that regular motion going. Don't kind of speed up. Don't stop up here or anything like that. Just keep it going. And as I was saying, just try to get a bit more range of motion in your elbow. Your wrist is going too, kind of loose wrist. As I say, this is the coarse movement. This is the fine movement. So they should be both going and kind of complementing each other. Another thing was, you mentioned Dancing in the Moonlight. So that's got a swung rhythm, right? So that's not 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. It's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So the difference is that you go down and you kind of just hang here for a little bit longer than you normally would. You come up and then straight back down. So you go down, hang a bit, and straight back down. Bum, ba, bum, ba, bum, ba, bum, as opposed to bum, 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 bum. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Just keep your hand movement, and there's no end of different rhythms you can get out of that, just depending on which ones you miss or you hit. So then finally, we did a little bit of lead playing as well, because why not? So if there's there is one scale that's fairly manageable, and it's kind of like the guitar scale, so it's called the pentatonic scale. So the way it works is we'll start off on the bottom and just try to use down up picking as well. Just make sure you're not going down, down, down at all. It doesn't have to be down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up the whole time when it comes to picking, just not down, 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 because that's just kind of giving yourself a whole lot of extra work and it won't be as smooth. So the way this scale works is you've got 2 notes on every string. The first of every 2 starts on the same fret every time. So in this case, just the open. And then from there, it goes up by 3 frets, 2, 2, 2, 3, and 3. So 3, 2, 2, 2, 3, and 3. And then back down. And so there's three little slurs or techniques, whatever you want to call them, that can go with that, right? So the first is, you've probably done these already, is the hammer on. So you just need to get a good bit of momentum, a good slap down on the string. You can't be too gentle about it, or the note will just die. Then pull off, you can drag it back off, and you can combine these as well. You'd be surprised how easy it is to get nice and quick on that as well. Then another one as well, I don't know if you mentioned this, was the slide. You can slide from anywhere to anywhere. And the trick with the slide is you just need to keep the pressure down as you're moving. So if you let it up at any point, the note will just be killed off. Okay, so that's plenty to be getting on with for now anyway. This video is already over 10 minutes, but we did cover a lot, so why not? Alright, so any issues with that, give us a shout, and I'll see you next week. Talk to you.